I bought this wrecked Porsche Boxster, and we're attempting to turn it into a GT3 RS. As a 16-year-old, this is my biggest dream ever, having a GT3 RS. But of course, with the steep price of around $400,000, it can only be a dream for now. So why not build it? That's why we have spent the past month assembling, carbon fibering, mounting, and fabricating mounts for our Porsche Boxster to fit our 3D printed GT3 RS body kit. And in the last video, we mounted the front end, which honestly looks insane and turned out better than I could have ever imagined. But as for the rear of this car, it has a long ways to go before looking right. So that's why we're going to be mounting the entire rear end of our body kit, which means we will have to carbon fiber yet again, and this can go terribly wrong. You will see why later in the video. The first thing we needed to do is get this car outside, so we pulled it out so we could start taking apart the rear end. Next morning, I started with the taillights. I did some research and these taillights nearly cost $1,000. This is just another sweet bonus from this amazing project. What's also sweet is how there's only one nut holding on this taillight. Anyways, next was the ducktail spoiler, and this was not easy to get off. As you can see, it was glued on. Yeah, not fun. Now we can remove the rear bumper. The rear bumper should have 11 bolts in it, 3 under the duckbill on the top of the bumper, 2 holding the sides, 4 on the bottom, and 2 little extra ones inside the exhaust vents. And of course, the one on mine came with a generous 3 bolts holding the whole thing on. Now that all that's removed, we can move on to the fun part, carbon fiber. Yeah, our new panels need strength, so we're mixing up our solution of 100 milligrams of polyester resin for every 2 grams of MEKP hardener. After giving it a good mix, we can now lay it down over our carbon fiber. We chose to do our duckbill first because it was the smallest part, consisting of only 10 pieces, and this was going pretty smooth. Brushing it down, making sure everything is fully saturated through. Reason why? Well, if the panels are not fully saturated through, it won't cure properly and the panel would start to delaminate. And if it delaminates, we would have to start all over again, meaning we would have to rip off all the carbon fiber, sand it all back down, and try again. So there is no room for error. But now that our duckbill is carbon fibered, we're moving on to our quarter panels. These quarter panels consist of 44 pieces each and are easily the biggest panels to deal with in this project. Time to mix up more resin because we're starting with our passenger side quarter panel. I cut and laid out where all the carbon fiber was going to go before slathering it on. This part was going pretty smooth until this happened. I was not recording when this happened, but our passenger side quarter panel arm completely snapped off while I was carbon fibering. This is a day after it happened. It is, it's fully cured. It is pretty solid. This is one piece. But there's one good thing from this, is that this stuff is pretty strong. It's on there. Like, it's not... That's not easy to peel off. So that is really good. That means that this stuff is definitely working. So I thought I would let y'all know that. Okay, so we have the quarter panel done, and it's all carbon fibered, as you can see in this flange. We left some excess carbon fiber so that we can fit the vents. And then I'm now fixing the driver's side quarter panel, which is gonna look amazing. It's gonna be nice and strong, so let's get to it. We ran out of our new resin, so we had to use some old resin lying around. This stuff was sealed up like concrete, but eventually we got it to come out, and surprisingly, it still had some pink color to it. So we mixed it up, and we used it for our driver's side quarter panel. Same process of cutting and laying down the shape, and then putting some of that sweet, sweet old resin on there. Then again, everything was going great until... Nah, I'm just kidding. The driver's side quarter panel went very well, and now we have 3 out of the 4 panels complete. All that's left is the rear bumper, and this is probably one of my favorite parts of the car besides the monstrous wing. The way that the bumper transitions into the quarter panels, and that beautiful two-tone color with the fin accents. Yeah, it's got a place in my heart. But this bumper is huge, consisting of 43 individual pieces. Yeah, it's gonna be another long night, but definitely worth it. So let's mix up some more of that resin and repeat the same process for the fourth and final time. Prepping the panel for the first piece, laying it down, and repeating it over the whole thing. Once done, we let it all cure overnight and wake up to success, hopefully. Little did we know, this would be one of our worst mistakes we made. The next morning, I woke up to the panels still wet, which means it didn't cure, and there's only one good reason why this happened. You see, when you're doing carbon fiber, it needs to be in a warm environment. But at the time of us doing this, it was winter, so the weather was around 60 degrees Fahrenheit throughout the day. But at night, it gets cold. So cold that night, it got down to 40s. But it gets even worse. In panic, I made the decision to put the panels in the sun, which little did I know, that would make it even worse. Why? Well, any type of 3D print material mixed with the sun just doesn't end well. It causes warping, and that's exactly what happened. Me thinking I was in the clear after laying the 4 panels in the sun, and it's starting to cure, but at the cost of what? Alright, I think we may have found a solution. You see, if the panels are warped, that means that they got heated up, which then would cause the distorted look. But what I learned is with a heat gun, we can pretty much bring these back to their original shape. So that's the good thing. But we didn't find this out way later until we got all the panels on the car. So it gets even worse. Overall, we're gonna have to address this at a later date. But anyways, it's time for phase 2. Mounting our new rear end body panels. To kick off phase 2, we needed to start by fixing a slight issue with one of our fenders. It got a little too toasty in the sun and melted the glue, so it started to fall. So we quickly grabbed our PDR hot glue and gooped it up again. And to ensure it's reinforced, this time we put some self-tappers in it. Now that that's resolved, we can move on to mounting our quarter panels. But before we mount, we have to cut. We have to cut off the access part that was meant to be a part of the inside of the door. But we have to be very careful here because if we marked and cut these off wrong, we would have to completely restart. So I grabbed my trusty white paint marker and marked it as carefully as I could. As you can see on the quarter panel, it already sort of has a guideline to follow, so that helped a lot. Another thing to mention is that we didn't carbon fiber the parts we were gonna cut. This was to help save on resin and material. After our quarter panels were marked, we got the angle grinder out to cut, slowly cutting away until our passenger side was flush. Now same goes for the driver's side, slowly cutting away until flush. Just from cutting that, you can already see it coming together. Durability test? Questionable. But to be fair, it's not carbon fibered. But you know what is carbon fibered? These beautiful cut quarter panels that are now ready to be mounted on our car. But of course, since we're on a time crunch to get the video out, we're using self-tappers to hold it on for now. Don't worry though, we will figure out how we're gonna finalize mount these quarter panels at a later date. But for now, let's just enjoy the beauty of seeing these on the car. I honestly thought we would never make it to this point at such a rapid pace we're moving at. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, we removed the trunk real quick before we mounted our quarter panels because I didn't want to make it any harder to remove later with the quarter panels being in the way. All it was simply 4 bolts holding it on, and it came off super easy. So far, this car hasn't given us too much trouble. We also went ahead and mounted our driver's side quarter panel, which also went on perfect. So far, I'm really happy with these results, but now we gotta move on to the duckbill and our rear bumper, which will be our biggest challenge yet when it comes to mounting these panels. So for now, let's start with the duckbill. I came up with this simple design of a pre-drilled L bracket that is merged together to sort of make a T. This was used to help us keep our duckbill and our quarter panel gaps perfect. For now, we glued them on with some more of our hot glue but later we will come back and carbon fiber those to the actual panel. We also cleaned up the edges of our quarter panels to help with fitting the duckbill better. Now that it's cleaned up, we need to get some structure underneath this panel to hold it up. So we're whipping out my favorite garage door rails. We measured to cut to the correct height for our duckbill, and we're using the factory Boxster mounts for this, because they're conveniently in the perfect spot to hold this up. These kinds of things just make this project way easier. I love it. After we tightened our brackets, we set our duckbill on top to check the height, and everything was coming together. We just needed to adjust the bracket a little more, and the duckbill would be in the perfect spot. Once in the perfect spot, we can finish it off with some self-tappers where our T-brackets are for some more strength. I'd say this turned out amazing. Definitely one of the coolest pieces on the car. But now, it's time to finish it all off with our rear bumper. Getting started, we took off some more parts of the rear off camera and discovered that the rear crash bar is pretty much the same as the front. So we decided to make a similar concept to our front mount. By prepping the welding surface for the pegs, we can then figure out our new rear crash bar system. Okay, so I have marked where we're gonna cut our homemade crash bar. We're gonna put it on these two pegs. And then there's this metal bar in here that's equally across both sides. And that, underneath here, it's marked where our light fixtures will go that are each 4 inches long. And our X's are where the 4 bolts are gonna go. We're gonna drill our screws straight through, or we're gonna do a drill bit into this metal bar. And then we're gonna take it off and put rib nuts in it. And then it should be good. Cutting our homemade crash bar, and then welding our crash bar to the pegs. We didn't realize how much space was actually between the rear bumper and the chassis, so we needed to make some arms to extend out to our base mounting bar. So we put the rear bumper in its exact spot where we wanted it, so we can weld on our extended arms. Now that we got the initial setup, we need to prep our base bar before welding it all together. So we got over to the drill press and drilled the 4 precise holes we needed for our mounting. After that, we popped some rib nuts in, and our base bar was ready to go. Heading back to the rear bumper that's roughly in the spot it needs to be hopefully, we welded in our base bar, and I'd say that's a job well done. But we're not done yet. We wanted to add some more support to the crash bar because we had some excess material lying around. So we welded in 2 pieces to go onto the bottom part of where our bar extends to our base bar. After we welded those in to finish it all off, we finalized welded everything. This is some peak fabrication right here. I think we deserve a gold star. Just look at it. Lastly, we put the bumper on and made some T-brackets to put where it meets with our quarter panels. We used some more self-tappers and hot glue to hold it on, and after that, it was time. I never expected us to get this far this fast. One thing I have learned so far from this build is that perfection can always come later, but what's most important is just getting it done. But let's not forget, we still have much more work to do. And in the next video, we'll be mounting the roof and starting bodywork. Oh, and spoiler alert, we got taillights. But anyways, thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button, and I'll see you in the next one.